Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We're so pleased you could join us today for this vital conversation about engaging men to end female genital mutilation cutting. My name is Carol Jenkins. I'm president and CEO of the ERA Coalition and the Fund for Women's Equality in the United States. I'm also a longtime member of the board of directors of AMREF Health Africa USA. Please note that this event is being recorded and there is also translation available. If you'll notice that at the bottom of your screen. We're so glad you're all here today. First, let me share a bit about the global platform for action to end FGMC. It got its start nearly 3 years ago at the 2019 Women Deliver Conference in Vancouver, Canada. More than 100 activists, survivors, professionals, civil society representatives, and community leaders from around the world came together in person at that special one-day pre-conference to discuss how to collaborate to accelerate a global end to FGMC. By the end of the day, participants had created a global call to action to end FGMC by 2030. Nearly 950 organizations and individuals have since signed on to support that call to action. Our topic today, engaging men in ending FGMC, falls under the first pillar of the call to action, supporting change from within, challenging social and gender norms. We're bringing together speakers from many parts of the world today. Some will give short talks in the style of a TED Talk. Others will share their experiences and ideas through a fireside chat format. And all of them will speak about the successes, the challenges, and reasons behind encouraging men to speak out about FGMC. You'll see me appear throughout the event to introduce speakers and to moderate one panel discussion. Please feel free to interact via the chat. Members of the Global Platform for Action to End FGMC will keep an eye on the chat as we go along. I'm going to keep introductions to our speakers very short today because we have lots of speakers and not a lot of time, and they all have very important things to say. Full bios of all of our speakers can be found on the Global Platform for Action to End FGMC website, and you'll see the link come up in the chat anytime you do that. Our first speaker today is Mireille Tushiminina. Mireille is the global coordinator of the UNFPA-UNICEF Joint Program on the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation. She has more than 21 years of experience at the senior management level in international development, conflict prevention and resolution, peace building, policy reforms, women's peace and security agenda, human rights, and gender and democratization, a true expert. Mireille, please join us and welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol, for this kind introduction, and greetings, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde, wherever you are. I am excited to share the joint program, continued efforts in engaging men and boys in ending FGM. And as you will see throughout the slideshow. But before I begin, I thought that I would quote a great champion of this for this cause and his struggle to fight against FGM, Dr. Morisanda Kuyate. He quotes in numerous occasions, when I talk about FGM, about more people listen because I am a man. Now imagine if all men said, I will now marry your daughter if you cut her. FGM will stop in one day. Engaging men and boys in the elimination of FGM are not new to the joint program and our partners. Since the launch of the joint program, men and boys have participated in the program as key stakeholders. These include working with religious and traditional leaders as community gatekeepers who play a critical role in challenging social and gender norms, including harmful practices such as FGM. Men and boys, as community leaders, have participated in community dialogues and leading public declaration of FGM. Specifically, in designing the joint program phase 3, there was consensus about the need to prioritize a gender transformative approach, which includes engaging men and boys as allies and partners in ending FGM. Through this approach, men and boys played a more active roles in ending FGM, including publicly voicing their opposition to the practice and advocating for the elimination of the practice. The Global Joint Program on the Elimination of FGM, since its inception in 2008 across 17 countries, is one of the largest programs addressing FGM, and is cognizant of the fact that eliminating the practice is not because men want FGM to end, but because FGM violates the rights of our girls, women, the sisters, our cousins, and a global community. However, in working with men and boys to end FGM, the joint program contributes to transforming gender relations and systems that sustain FGM across all levels of social ecology. At the global community face to prospect of the prospect of the COVID-19 pandemic, reversing progress in gender equality and the elimination of FGM. One positive outcome from the crisis in 2020 was the role of men and boys playing in championing the protection of girls and women from FGM. For those who have not read our annual 2020 our annual report, which was launched back in September, and it features 6 reports that captured the experience of the joint program and partners in preventing and mitigating and responding to the increased risk of FGM during the COVID pandemic, as well as the program achievement in 2020, despite the unprecedented global crisis. And one of the particular 6 report was on gender equitable masculinity in eliminating FGM, and which is accessible in both websites, UNFPA and UNICEF. And that particular report highlights promising practices and program results in engaging men and boys as allies. And if you read the report, and hopefully you will, you can find ample data that shows the changing of attitude of men, boys, religious and community leaders towards the practice, and domestic violence in 17 countries where the joint program is being implemented. The report also showcased different campaigns, as you can see on the slideshow, led by men, young people, and religious leaders in these countries. From the global to local, confronted with the fierce sense of urgency now, men and boys as individuals, police officers, healthcare providers, advocates and activists, religious and traditional leaders, aid workers, national, subnational policymakers, academics, and journalists step out to prevent FGM. In Kenya, for example, as you know, as you could see, the president, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta in Samburu, launched the Presidential Plan of Action to End FGM by 2022, a high-level political commitment to accelerate the elimination of FGM. The presidential plan has translated into a national costed roadmap. In Djibouti, the joint program, in partnership with National Human Rights Commission, organized an advocacy workshop for local government officials, parliamentary, members of civil society to establish an alliance of men promoting the elimination of FGM. And we also have in Nigeria, for example, statement by traditional and religious leaders on preventing the spread of COVID-19 and protecting girls and women from FGM. We're broadcasted on TV and radio, reaching over 12.5 million listeners and viewers. And of course, we have the massive motorbike taxi driver transformed into community mobilizer in Guinea that reached over 700,000 people, and also through their social network. Lastly, the joint program also recognize that we are in the decade of action, and that calls for concerted effort towards solving world problems such as FGM by 2030. More has to be done. The current level of effort is not sufficient to meet the global target of eliminating the practice by 2030. Progress will need to be at least 10 times faster than now. So we need all members of community. FGM is deeply rooted and globally prevalent practice. It would take all of us, including men and boys, citizens, activists, policymakers, researchers, academia, and affected communities working together to eliminate FGM and create a world free from violence of all. I will end here by a quote by Dr. Morisanda again. We have everything we need to reach zero tolerance for violence against women. There's no more excuses. Thank you.
Mireille, I want to thank you so much for that presentation. So compelling. And, we know that you've done this all over the world, and thank you. Thank you for that. I love the way you began it. Getting a little feedback there, but there we go. Thanks so much. That if men would say they would not marry a girl who had been cut, then it would end, immediately. So thank you for that preface to our problem here. We're now joined by Mariya Taher and Catherine Cox from SEO. SEO is a transnational organization with bases in the United States and India, whose mission is to empower Asian and other communities to end female genital cutting. Their program, BIO, works to engage men in this work and provide them with resources and the space to become involved in the work to abandon FGC. Mariya is the co-founder and U.S. Executive Director. Catherine Cox has served as the program coordinator for SEO for around a year and a half. Welcome to you both.
Thank you so much, Carol. And thank you to the Gold Platform for allowing us to talk about our program, BIO. Before, I think Kate and me just talk a little bit more about the program, we were hoping we could show a video is from one of our most recent campaigns that we launched last June in connection to Father's Day. And it's just a great example of the campaigns that we've done. So if it's possible, that'd be great to show first.
Sorry.
Hi everyone, it's Murtaza.
Hello, I'm Jim Cox.
Hi, my name is Moses Solikoda.
Hi, my name is Saifi.
I'm Ashraf Engineer and I'm part of the Dawoodi Bora community.
My name is Toby Olanipekom. I am the founder of Future Shikars Initiative.
मेरा नाम शब्बीर हुसैन नासिर है। मैं दाऊदी बोरा कम्युनिटी से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ। मेरा एक बेटा और एक बेटी है।
I'm a father of 2 daughters and think it's important that fathers stand against all forms of gender-based violence, including female genital cutting.
As the director of an organization, a feminist organization in Sierra Leone that work with and for girls and women, young women and youth in this country. One of our thematic areas and organization is to end FGM.
FGM is not only a social norm, but also a gender norm. And for it being a gender norm, it simply means that we cannot be able to have solutions around FGM without involving the two genders.
So I see it as a way of, one, we are depriving them from their rights, and two, the community people are also causing some health implications against these girls. So that has prompted me to serve as an ambassador, to serve as a champion to fight against female genital mutilation in Sierra Leone.
Fathers can make an impact primarily by enhancing their knowledge about the Khatna, FGC, and educating their family members about the same.
I feel bio and male healthy program are important as many men in Bora communities are still not aware of FGC being performed within their family, like on their daughters, granddaughters, sisters, etc.
Bio and all other male allied programs in the fight against female genital mutilation are very, very important because it helps to lay more emphasis on the need and reasons for the male gender, to help the female folks in fighting against the practice of female genital mutilation.
I would just ask you to think about how you can contribute either on a personal level or on a professional level. Different communities understand or would relate to the issues that girls and women face when they undergo FGM.
I believe brother and father can resist and protect girl child within their family from this girl practice. I feel more and more males along with their female should come forward and stop this practice. Every change needs to be started from our own self and home. Thank you.
And then, our brothers and fathers can definitely make impact in the fight against female genital mutilation, by sensitizing and starting the sensitization of female genital mutilation within their immediate environment, starting, with the family, making sure that girls and women in their families are very much protected, are not made to undergo female genital mutilation.
You're not going to change someone's mind overnight, right? Like that's impossible. But you can at least start talking about something that hasn't been talked about.
The message that obviously are for fathers out there is to be the very shield that they need to be. They need to protect, the young girls. They need to protect the women, their family, in their environment, and in the world at large, from the practice of female genital mutilation. They have a duty. They have a very important duty to ensure that, the practice of female genital mutilation gets stopped, starting with their family. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for showing the video. So with that, again, we're going to talk a little bit about bio. My name is Mariya Taher, and I'll let Kate just quickly introduce herself too.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Catherine Cox. I'm the programs coordinator at SEO, and I have been for around a year and a half now. However, the idea for bio actually originated before I joined the SEO team. So to start off, Mariya, I was wondering if you could tell me just a little bit more about how bio and our male engagement program came about.
Yeah, sure. So for everybody who's seen the Father's Day video that came about, we officially actually launched bio in February of 2021. So it's not very old in terms of being a program at SEO. However, we have been doing male engagement work for a few years prior to that. And the initial impetus for bio and the creation of it actually stemmed from another program of ours. We do an annual activist retreat. For those who are not as familiar with SEO, we do work with many impacted communities, but we have a focus within Asian communities and also a special focus with the Daudi Bohra community, which is a South Asian community, and partly because the co-founders of SEO, 4 of the 5 came from that community. So we're very aware of female genital cutting in the community. We have this annual activist retreat where members of the Bohra community gather. For the last couple of years, it's been in a virtual space with the pandemic, obviously, but we gather to really build relationships, strengthen, talk about advocacy, talk about the challenges of doing this work. And I think it was in 2020 during our activist retreat, which was when we had to first go virtual, we had male participants for the first time in that retreat. And we were very surprised at just their interest level, but also we do an action planning at the end of the retreat. And there was a lot of interest in creating some sort of program, some sort of support for male allies, for male advocacy and what that meant. And that's really how it started. It came from the participants themselves and who had taken part in really wanting to push forward on doing bio. And then prior to that, though, we also had done a public awareness campaign via social media around men engagement, where we had participants take part. But that was, I think, in 2019, and it was, again, prior to our official launch of bio, but there seemed to be a lot of momentum and interest in being able to do this, and we recognized the vital importance of it as well. So then with the support from attendees, and they had gathered a couple of their also male ally friends who are interested in doing this work, we were able to create and launch bio officially in February 6th, so Zero Tolerance Day of 2021. So that's how it came about initially. So with that, Kate, I would love to actually ask you, because you are a program coordinator at SEO, and so you've been really involved with bio and the campaigns after you came on board. So in your experience, what have you felt, or could you talk a little bit more about the projects actually that you've been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for telling me a little bit more about the origins of bio. It's such a great story as well that this was able to come directly from male allies and their desire to really be involved in this work. So bio aims to engage men through a variety of programs and networks. In the past, we've hosted webinars to educate men on FGC and to uplift the conversation about male engagement in this issue. Our first webinar was called Everyone's Responsibility, and we brought about activists from across the world to the table to discuss the role that men play and to highlight the need to have men working in their communities, encouraging their communities to abandon FGC. We also connect male allies to one another to help them grow in their activism and strengthen ties with one another. And finally, another one of our big programs is social media campaigns, specifically focusing on uplifting the voices of men and allowing men to see that there is a role for men to speak in this issue and that their voices are needed in the conversation. And one of those social media campaigns you actually all just saw was our Father's Day campaign. So on June 20th, bio began a Father's Day inspired social media campaign to encourage and promote our program, as well as to empower communities to end FGC. So during this month-long campaign, we highlighted the role men play in empowering their communities to end FGC, particularly focused on their roles and experiences as fathers, future fathers, and brothers. And overall, we received 16 submissions for this campaign from over 6 countries. And it was really a campaign that highlighted the success of uplifting men's voices. And we were really excited about that campaign and about that video. And Mariya, I did want to ask you, this campaign, the Father's Day campaign, highlighted a lot of these successes that can come from engaging men to end FGC. So I was wondering, what are some of the other successes that you have seen with bio and with engaging men in our programming?
Yeah. So Kate, thanks for sharing more about the Father's Day campaign too in details. But so one of the things that's been interesting with bio is really when we started, we were looking at how do we engage, and we were in a virtual space too, considering again, we were in the global pandemic. And so social media was a really vital tool. And we found it in the communities, in some of the communities we work within, whether it's communicating through WhatsApp, that's another platform to be able to engage. And so sharing content in that way is how messaging and conversations can start around FGMC too. So one thing that I'll just give one example of something that we didn't quite recognize the importance of until this happened. But we had one of our program participants in the past, she reached out to us because she had a friend who was a father in India, and he was really worried because he was concerned that his daughter might be at risk for undergoing female genital cutting, or they had separated, and so him and his wife, and so he's a little bit worried that that might occur, or that the daughter might be taken, and didn't know what to do about this situation, or how to bring up the conversation or to talk about it. And so we actually were able to connect him with members of BIO who were able to talk to him and just kind of give him more information, but just sort of be a support and someone to turn to and talk about this and try to understand how can he have these conversations, what can he do, and found that incredibly important in healing as well. And that was something, again, we didn't necessarily recognize, but that was one of the utilities of BIO too, is being able to support others who might be in these situations too, and not quite sure how to approach this or concerned about their daughter. So being able to have men who are able to speak to other men about this and provide that support was really important, creating that social support so that you can stand up against this. So that was something, again, that we recognized was just another utility of BIO, and why we were really working to increase participation in the overall program. So just with that, I don't know, Kate, if there's anything you wanted to add about successes too, or on the flip side, if, I'm wondering what you've thought or found to be our challenges in building BIO and engaging men in our programming.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I think the story of kind of that WhatsApp connection really highlights the power of just, like you said, just a platform for connections and allowing men to connect to one another via something as simple as a WhatsApp group chat. And in terms of successes, I did also just want to mention, I believe when this program started out, we had about 3 to 4 volunteers, and we've grown to include 16 volunteers. So I think it highlights just the desire men have to become involved in this issue and to be champions for this issue, and that through our program, we were able to give them a platform. However, one of the major challenges we have faced has been engagement and recruitment. Many men feel that they don't have a place in the conversation, or that the conversation is a woman's issue and so they shouldn't speak about it. Or some simply don't know that it happens at all, that FGC is something that is practiced in their community. And as a result, in our BIO programming, we do have to work harder to ensure that men know that their voice is needed in this conversation, and to take the extra step to educate them about the harms of FGC. And so one of the things we really try to do both at BIO and at SAO in general is practice meeting people where they're at. So one of the things that we recognize is that activism to end FGC is a journey of learning, understanding, and action, and that people are in all different places in that journey and at different stages. So when we design our programs, we really specifically try to make sure that we are allowing men to participate in all stages of the activism, whether that's allowing for anonymous participation, private activism, or educational opportunities. That way, all men, wherever they're at in their advocacy journey, are able to participate and are able to further our cause. Yeah, so those are just some of the challenges we've also faced. And yet, despite these challenges, as I mentioned before, our BIO program has been growing, which really speaks to the, again, need men have and the desire they have to become involved. So Mariya, I was just wondering how you see this program growing over the next few years.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly touch on one thing that I think is important. It is interesting to us. I mean, I've had conversations over the last couple of years too with some of the participants and some of the actually original participants of BIO, where there was a lot of interest in building the program and a lot of involvement, but there was also this conflicted feeling that we were hearing of people, of men in our program, not all, but some, in terms of like not really knowing what their place was in terms of like how they can continue to engage, or feeling and or potentially have had in conversations, and what people wondering, why are you involved, or why this is really not something, does it impact you, does it not impact you? And so that was something, or almost feeling like I don't have a right to speak about this. And so that was an interesting dynamic where even though we had some men who were initially very interested, then feeling like they had to step back or feeling like they weren't comfortable. And so understanding that support is needed as well when you're thinking about building male allyship programs as well, recognizing that this is a community issue and we should be able to work as a community to end FGMC for future generations, but also support survivors. So that, again, I just wanted to highlight that. And with that in mind, I think in terms of thinking about how the program is growing, we definitely would love to see it. It's a fairly new program, and we're still understanding how to work in terms of engaging folks and building more participants, and what does that mean. But I think one thing is also how to help men in our male ally programs in leadership positions within those programs too, because we do recognize that importance of connecting with other men. And that is one of the struggles that we've had here is we have, when we have campaigns, we have a lot of participants, which is wonderful to see, and that keeps continuing to growing. But really, how do we get men involved in the leadership aspect of that too? Because we found that that would be helpful in connecting with other male allies in that way. So I think overall, we just hope to continue to grow this program, learn from it, and understand how can men play a role in really ending FGMC. So with that, we just wanted to quickly talk to you all about BIO a little bit and give you a taste of what our program is about by showing that video. But we're happy to talk more or share more information in the chat box. And if anyone wants to connect us, we can put our contact info there. But thank you again so much for letting us talk about BIO.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
And thank you all very much for that conversation. Very illuminating. Good work. Good work. Next up, we wanted to share a short clip from the award-winning documentary In the Name of Your Daughter by Giselle Portenier, a Canadian filmmaker and one of the founders of the End FGM Canada Network. And they are a member of the Global Platform for Action to End FGMC. The clip features men in a market in Tanzania talking about why they believe girls and women need to be subjected to FGMC. Let's look at that clip now.
Sasa huyo mtoto hujamkeketa, anabaki hapo nyumbani, afanye nini? Na hata olewa, unataka afia huku kwako au utaki yeye aolewe? Una maana kwamba utakuwa na wewe unakiuka kwenye Biblia, maana Mungu amesema na huyo kila mtu atapata, watakuwa wawili. Sasa wewe unapomnyima keketa alafu asiolana, hana kazi yoyote, umemwandalia nini baadaye? Unaona? Kwani usafi unasafishwa na kuwa msafi. Unaona? Kwa sababu pale na ule mdudu wake ukikaa pale unaweka uchafu pale.
Unapojua kwa mfano binti wa kike anapokuta ametahiriwa, tayari ametoka katika daraja dogo amepanda kuwa daraja la juu. Lakini akishakuwa ameenda jandoni akatoka pale akaja nyumbani akaanzisha, sasa anaanza kuwa binti, na ukimwona hata katika usafi, nguo zake, mavazi ni tofauti, hata mienendo yake inakuwa ni tofauti. Kwa mfano, unajua binti wa kike hapa kwetu huwezi ukamkuta na randaranda aliyeishi kutahiriwa, lakini kama hajatahiriwa yuko huru kutembea tu.
Sababu ya tatu, kukeketa. Sisi unajua jamii yetu hii tunategemea kama binti ameshafika mtu mzima amekeketwa, yuko nyumbani na miaka 18 kwenda juu, anahitaji aolewe ili angalau akupe kama hata ni ng'ombe. Si unajua ng'ombe sisi huku thamani sana. Mtoto mmoja ng'ombe 15 20, si au ng'ombe wengi.
Kiwa na mtoto ambaye hajakeketwa kweli, yani hili swala kiujumla wajasiriamali umetukuta. Kwa sababu kama fundi cherehani wale mabinti walikuwa wakikeketwa, basi tunashona pale, tununua zile wanazozawadiwa, tunajiingizia kipato, hasa kwenye upande wa ukumbi, tukionyesha video pale tunapata hela. Sasa mlivyokataa tutaenda wapi? Na sisi tunaona hasa upande wa mafundi na wajasiriamali umetufanyia ukatili. Baba.
So that clip from In the Name of Your Doctor shows some of the prevailing social norms that can be held by men in some communities in Tanzania. It's a nice lead in to the conversation we're going to have now with three people who are working directly within communities to engage men to stop FGM. We are so honored to be joined by Rodrigue Nkwayaya, Indiaye, and Fatima Sy. And I'll be moderating a panel with these amazing speakers to better understand their work and engaging men. Before we start the panel, we have a short video from Alfred Lanwala, a project officer with Safe Samburu in Kenya. Alfred speaks about how Safe Samburu is engaging men within the Samburu community in Kenya and some of the challenges he and his colleagues face. Let's listen to Alfred now.
Sorry, hang on a sec. I'm having trouble loading Alfred's. Wait a minute. Can you hear?
No, we're not able to hear the sound quite yet.
Sorry, hang on. Sorry. Wait a minute. Okay.
Still no sound.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's happened.
Okay, maybe.
Can I work on this and maybe show this video a little bit later? Is that possible?
Sure.
Can you hear now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Okay.
My name is Alfred Lanwala. I work with Safe Kenya and Safe Samburu as a project officer. It's very important to engage men in this work of ending FGM. Number one, because men are the custodians of the Samburu culture. And number two, they are also influencers when it comes to any decisions that is very important within the Samburu community. So I view it as a very important group to engage to end FGM because they really influence the community to make decisions and show the community the right direction. So they are a very important group. It's also challenging to engage men at some point because bringing them together in a forum sometimes will result to another group becoming rigid to change, another group accepting the change. So when they don't agree in unison, then it becomes challenging for them to make decisions. They keep on responding, they keep on discussing. Another challenge in engaging this group in Samburu is that there is tribal clashes in Samburu County, especially in the northern part of Samburu. So the migration patterns also of this community, because especially during this time of drought, they move to different parts of the country in search of water and pasture. So mobilizing them, bringing them together becomes a challenge to discuss this sometimes. So we have different challenges. For example, they view also ending FGM as part of destroying their culture. They view it as the government want to do away with their identity. So this makes them not direct the community in the right direction and come up with a decision once and for all. But all in all, they are very instrumental group when it comes to all the aspects of culture in Samburu County. So I view it as a very important group because once you engage them, you have engaged the Samburu community. And once you leave them out, then whatever you are trying to bring forward will be viewed as not important, even with the rest of the community.
And our thanks to to Alfred for explaining some of the issues, the place in community. My pleasure now to talk with Rodrigue, Dame, and Fatima. Let me start with Rodrigue. If you could tell us how you got engaged in this work. You are, I believe, in Senegal. And if we could hear a little bit about your engagement and how you frame the issue as a man dealing with other men trying to eliminate FGM.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here. We are united by a common goal, the desire to see FGM mutilation, FGM end. So I'm so happy and glad to learn from your experience and to share with you my experience working with men in Ireland, men living in direct provision against the harmful practice, the cultural harmful practice. So, like we know, everyone, the reason of FGM for women is to be accepted in the community, to get marriage. But for us men, is to control the women. Is about power and control. As we know that someone who control you in private can control you in public. And in my job, working with men, there is opportunity and there is challenges. So like we say in the beginning, we see FGM like a taboo. It's a sensitive issues. And to talk about FGM, in my view, we have tools, the reflection, action, methodology. We have tools who help us to bring the issues of FGM. So using the tools bring us anytime the issues of FGM. So through here, I will enumerate some tools which we use in our workshop, in our training. Number one, we have body map. Talking about body map, we'll draw a man, we name all the parts, and we start to ask when they cut a part of body, your body, like nose, like chest, how do you feel? And through the tools, we'll bring the issues of female genital mutilation. Another tools is like human rights. And we know that female genital mutilation is against human rights and culture. We have another tools like problem 3. Problem 3 is, we know the tree have 3 parts, the roots, the body, and the leaves. We have the river. Our life is like a journey. We have the onion. So we have tools. All these tools bring the issues of FGM and human rights very well. So FGM as a taboo subject, we must take care and talk about it with sensitive and respect for people and community who practice without judging them. I will talk a little bit about the impact when I'm working with men in direct provision. It was not easy in the beginning talking about the FGM, because in the beginning was like taboo. But when we went through the tools, we bring the issues of FGM, was not like a taboo also. We have been able to increase awareness about the danger of FGM, because men didn't know about the danger of FGM. Men, they are most in their culture. Talking with them, they will tell you FGM is our culture. Why you want to end it? So men, they are most in their culture. And bringing the issues of culture and human rights and culture, they realize that FGM is against human rights. So another impact was there is now a change of mind of people from practicing community. People in direct provision start to send message to their friend back home that that FGM is a violation of human rights. So both the men are now empowered. They know how to talk about FGM. They bring the issues of FGM. It's not anymore a taboo in our family, in our community. Is a harmful traditional practice we must end.
Rodrigue, thank you so much. I want Dom to pick up a little bit on that. You brought up, a couple of very important issues: human rights for girls and women, and the power structure. Dom, can you speak to that and your experience in attempting to end this, talking to men and convincing other men? Just raising the question, how would you feel about having a body part of yours removed? Dom, your experience.
Like I say, men, women, they are a sister.
Right.
They are a mom. They are a cousin. So talking with men is mean we are educated men about the consequences of FGM. And sometimes I use video to tell men how FGM is going, how its practices. Because men, they don't know about the consequence. Men, they think like FGM is female issues, is women issues. Men, they are in their culture. They say it's our culture. How you want to end it? We have our culture. How we want to end it? So men must be educated.
Right, Rodrigue, I want to try to get Dom Indiaye in this conversation, and Fatima as well with you. So Dom, if you can hear me, turning on your camera and your microphone, would love to have your thoughts of what we've heard from Rodrigue.
Alors, merci beaucoup de cette
Thank you very much for this opportunity that you are giving me as an activist fighting against FGM in Senegal. And I'm also a beneficiary of a project that was working to end FGM. So this has always been a key objective of our government. We have youth organizations who have started getting so much involved in this fight against FGM. And the involvement of men has proven to be really helpful we had other programs like family planning that we've taken advantage of. So the idea was to make sure that we involve men in this field of the use of contraceptives. So we realized that men play an equally important role also in the fight against FGM because our common objective is to put an end to this very harmful practice. So we have a problem of patriarchy in our community, in which case men are considered superior and they are therefore the ones taking all the decisions. Something that should be also corrected. So we had to go through activities of sensitization, sensitize men, and also a lot of advocacy. And today, Senegal, we do have men who are very well sensitized and who are really helping in fighting FGM. So I think it is very, really important to use men, to involve men in fighting against practice of FGM. And the other point with regards to involving men is that we should really promote this sense of ownership of the whole process to fight against FGM. Because normally the problem is lack of information. And sometimes they do have problems, we cannot solve them. So we've come up with youth organizations who are going to play a leading role. We try to communicate with the communities, the religious leaders, and the traditional leaders who are the ones involved in decision making. So they are key players in the fight because these community and religious leaders, mostly they are men. All of them are men. So it is really, really important to train and sensitize men so that they can help us further this sensitization campaign, which will lead to behavioral change that we really desire in this fight against FGM.
Don, thank you. There is a question. Please stay on camera, and Rodrigue, if you could come back on, and Fatima, if you could come on as well. And for those who need translation, there's a button at the bottom of your screen that will give you an option to translate for translation. Fatima, please see. Fatima Sy, if you could turn your camera back on, we want to hear from you now to join this conversation with Rodrigue and Dom. Please give us your thoughts on what you've heard so far. You know, two men who are active in the.
Bon, merci beaucoup. Vous m'entendez?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go right ahead.
D'accord. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci pour l'invitation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. Like I said a while ago, my name is Fatima. I am the president of the Senegalese Association working on the future of women. So I'm from this generation. So she's breaking. So in our country, in Senegal, in our region, this FGM practice is a problem. So women are being circumcised, but I'm lucky because I've not undergone that. Our organization is part of civil society organizations which are raising their voices against the FGM. But the problem currently, which has even pushed us to do some research, Personally, I've had to do some few research works to understand why women must undergo the cut. So in my community, I've done some research and I've been able to understand the genesis of this practice. Because in our community, it's not the parents who decide on the women, it is rather the grandparents who decide, who are saying that if you not undergo a cut, you are disadvantaged. There's this pressure from the family that obliges young girls to undergo the cut from 14 years. And there's always this extreme pressure from the grandmother who keeps that the girls should undergo the cut. And if ever the young girls resist against this, they are normally stigmatized in the society. So I was able to question men, and they admitted that they know there are consequences to this practice, and they know that they can suffer when they undergo the cut. Because when you touch these areas, it shows that they are undergoing pain. So what can we do? Because this is our culture and it's our tradition, and it's our grandparents who are imposing this. So after these interviews and discussions with the parents, said, why not go to these decision makers who say that we should continue. So when we did this, they told me, you are part of a family that is not in this practice, so why are you getting involved? But I insisted, because personally, because I've been discriminated, I cannot even get married in my community. This is discrimination, it's not normal. So I've come here so that you explain to me why I've been discriminated. And after discussion, they told me, yes, we know the consequences of FGM, but we are forced to continue this practice. Because if you don't do that, will not be respected in our community. So this FGM practice is deep-rooted in our society. That the men or the women who do it are doing it out of an obligation. Not that they don't want to let go of this practice. But the main problem here is that the consequences that arise from resisting this practice, like being excommunicated, discrimination, that is the problem. I want today that it is really important and vital to keep involving men in. And this way, progressively we'll be able to fight. We need to think of how we can proceed with the programs that are intended to build the capacity of the different actors. We need to support them so that they can resist this community pressure, and so that we be able to say no to FGM. So I must say that there's still a lot of work to be done, whether it be the communities or the society organizations. We need to come together, collaborate, and make sure that involve all the stakeholders, boys who are going to also help us in this fight. So we need to continue with the sensitization campaign of men, of boys, of women, and even those who are practicing But you know that there's a certain age which the community has set for issues like marriage, so they need to be sensitized in advance to put an end to its practice of FGM. And other organizations like AMREF are also are doing a good job in terms of sensitizing these men and women and young girls and boys. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for that. You know, we're looking at a deadline, and Rodrigue, if you could turn your camera back on and your microphone so we can have you and Dom as well, all of you back in the conversation. And a reminder that translation is available, a button at the bottom of your screen. We're looking at a deadline of what, 8 years, of 2030. Rodrigue, do you see us eliminating it, making great progress? Are you, in the work that you're doing, finding, you know, a major enough shift to bring us, you know, to that deadline of eliminating FGM? See, or what needs to happen to make that happen? Rodrigue.
In the beginning of everything is difficult. As we are going, we are talking about the issues. It's not anymore a taboo. We are raising awareness among the community. There is impact in our society because now they can talk about FGM in social media, in school, in our community, in our church, in our leaders. There is law now in our country about FGM. So there is improvement, and one day we'll reach there. We'll end FGM. I hope if we are together, one day we end FGM.
A question to you about the difference between the elders who make many of these decisions and young boys and what they understand about this. You know, a lot of the work that we do at AMREF is with children, you know, the education, you know, in the elementary school levels, so that as they grow, they understand, you know, the violation of this human right, you know, and that the power over girls should not have to come in that way. What do you find in terms of generationally the difference?
Yeah, now is time for intergeneration talk. So we must talk the issues, bring the issues in our family, in our community. It's not anymore a taboo, because how a mom who went through the practice, who suffer, how she can accept her daughter go again. So for the children now, it's time we to talk. We can't say is a taboo, is a taboo. No. Children now, young boy now, they knew about the issues. The problem is about education, like you say. They must be educated about the consequences of FGM, and they raise awareness. They can say, no, it's not, it's against human rights. So now we are mobilized young boys to accept to marry a woman who didn't go through the practice. So there is impact in the society now.
And what about the safety of girls? I know one of the part of the AMREF project is a boarding school for girls, scholarships to try to rescue them from, you know, from the forces that would still like to participate in that cultural, you know, cutting. What do you see as necessary for girls?
For girls, like in my country here, we are working together with service providers. Because FGM is going underground. We can't say it's African issues. Even in Europe, FGM is going underground. So when children, during their holiday, parents, they are bringing them back home to be cut. And when they are coming back, no, we are working with service providers like immigration, like GP, like school. When they're coming back, we must save our children. So talk with them in the school. How did you go there? How was your holiday? How did you want all those things to save them? Talking with them, even the school, because now even nurse, they are training. We train nurse in Ireland, Gadi, immigration school about the consequence of FGM. So to save children, we are working together with service providers from airport, from school, from hospital, from everywhere, community centers.
And
Thank you.
Fatima, I think you were talking about this as well in terms of grandmothers who participate. I think that some of the figures suggest that many or much of the cutting being done now is being done by health workers. If you could talk a little bit about that, Fatima. If you can hear me, and if we can get the translation up. Let's try Dom. Dom, if you can hear me, it would love to. Here we go.
Est-ce que vous pouvez reprendre votre question? J'ai pas bien entendu la question. Allô?
Hello, we can hear you. Thank you. Thanks. And the question about, so you were talking before about grandmothers, but now we understand that so much of the cutting being done now is actually being done by health workers. As Rodrigue was talking about the going underground with the cutting, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Oui, me concernant personnellement, comme je dis, aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans...
You're right. Hey, in our society, where the grandmothers, yes, are playing a role, they need to be involved in this fight. But beyond the grandmothers, we have the future parents, the girls who are going to be married soon. And like you said, the other people who are involved are the health workers who are supporting this practice. And we do have women who get complications during delivery, so it's really, really important to sensitize them. But even beyond the involvement of health workers, we need also to take care of the young mothers who have suffered and know the consequences. We also need to involve with sensitization. And you have women who are really traumatized by this practice. And we know that we do also have women who are suffering stigmatization because they have not undergone the cut, and therefore they have difficulties finding husbands. So they all need to be brought on board. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need to involve everybody if we really want to succeed in this fight against FGM.
And your thoughts on the prognosis of actually eliminating FGM by the deadline of 2030? What do you see needs to happen to make that, for us to actually get that far?
Pour moi, quand même, depuis le début, quand même, nous avons faussé parce qu'on a mis au devant de la scène des gens qui ne maîtrisent pas la mutilation.
This will take time.
Ici au Sénégal, il faut mettre
So for us in Senegal, we need to involve the families that have undergone the cut,
et qui savent aussi les
who
conséquences des
know
mutilations
the
génitales, qui vont être au-devant
consequences.
pour parler de cette problématique-là à leur communauté.
They need to continue talking about on this issue of FGM. Otherwise, if you take people who have little knowledge about this issue, it is not going to have an impact. So we need to involve but beyond these people, we really need to make sure that men are fully involved. Because we know we have this problem of patriarchy. So it's men who make decisions. We must recognize the fact that we are equally emancipated as women, and therefore we need to assume our roles and responsibilities. And by involving men, I think we are going to really succeed in this fight.
And Dom, I'm so glad to see your camera back on, and would love to hear what you have to say on two things. Number one, what do we need to do in order to make that 2030 deadline? You know, how do we protect our girls? And of course, we're talking today about engaging more men. Is it done at the elementary school level, or the elder level, or all of the above? Dom, your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
Alors, merci beaucoup pour cette excellente question.
Thank you so much for this excellent question. We can only achieve this objective of 2030 if we take a multi-sectorial approach, and we really need to involve men so much, the religious and traditional leaders, the organizations working in the community, and we should not forget women themselves. So if we take this multi-sectorial approach, I believe that we can put an end to this very harmful practice of FGM by 2030. I believe that the sensitization, communication, and education has to start at the school level. We need to start at that stage to sensitize our young boys and girls on the harms of FGM. So this is how we will succeed in putting an end to this practice. But beyond the schools, we should also think of other actors who are outside the school context. We do have boys, girls who are not in school, and the young women who are illiterate. So I think we need to come up with strategies that are targeting this category of community members and help them. I believe we should ultimately be able to live in a country where we are no longer talking about FGM, but rather sustainable development. That's why I'm insisting that we need to integrate this in our programs of sensitization and communication.
Fatima, I want to follow up with you too, and also Rodrigue, about the connective problem that we have of child marriage, because that is, you know, so much a part of why the custom of the cutting of very young children. Rodrigue, if you could address that issue as it plays a part in cutting.
Please come again with the question, please. I can't hear properly.
The issue of child marriage, which we are also working to eliminate as well, but it usually is a part of the rationale for the cutting. You know, that once a girl has been cut, she is eligible for marriage, no matter how young, and how that plays in your understanding of what we're working with and what we need to resolve.
Like we say, is about education and cultural things. We must protect our daughter from child marriage. Men are leaders. We are leaders. We have our voice, perceive power, and power of men as father, as brothers, husband, friend of son, of women suffering or going through child marriage. Men can say no to that human right. It's also a human right violation, sending child to marriage. So the position of men can be used at the community to engage them in the global fight. Female genital mutilation, child marriage is about education, is about talking, intergenerational talk in our community. It's time we to talk about it in our family, in our community. It's time. We can't continue to say FGM is a taboo. No. Intergenerational dialogue, I want to say, intergenerational dialogue in our family, in our community, everywhere. So the position of men is very important. Men can say no to the child marriage. Thank you.
Your thoughts on that?
Est-ce que tu peux répéter la question, s'il vous plaît?
Can you please repeat the question?
The participation of child marriage, which often goes with the concept of cutting, and the culture change that needs to take place in that regard as well, in terms of human rights, the power of what happens to girls across the country. And I've seen in the chat that we're talking about across the world, actually, where people are talking about the United States as well. 200 million girls and women who are subjected to this. You can talk a little bit about child marriage.
Oui, déjà pour...
Yes, so I'm going to talk about Senegal. In the regions where we have a high prevalence of FGM, unfortunately, it is these same regions where we have a high prevalence of child marriages, which means that there is a nexus between the two, in FGM and child marriages, because we are having these two cases in the same regions. So we have today an inclusive approach, which entails sensitizing the community on FGM as well as child marriages, because these are problems that are stopping girls from progressing in life. So we know the very harmful consequences of these practices on their health, and therefore it is upon us as the necessary actor, as men also, to express ourselves against these practices that are very prevalent in the regions that I've just mentioned. And, therefore, we need to be very, very efficient in our communication strategies, our sensitization strategies to fight against these bad practices. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all so much for this conversation, from your perspectives and the wonderful work that you are doing. And all together, we will work to, to meet that 2030 deadline. Thank you for your experiences and expertise. The Global Platform for Action to End FGMC wanted to include a diverse range of voices on the topic of engaging men to end FGMC. So a call was put out around the world for people to submit their thoughts. The Global Platform received responses from Europe, from Asia, Africa, and from North America. And here's a snapshot of some of the submissions received. If we can listen to that tape now. Oh my goodness, such a great response, and such great quotes as those in the chat are responding to it as well. There's so much more we could discuss about engaging men to end FGMC. We want to thank all of our speakers today for joining us and sharing their wisdom and experience. And we, of course, appreciate you all so much for what you're doing. Today's webinar was recorded, so you'll be able to watch it or share it with colleagues. The recording link will be shared with everyone who registered for today's Commission on the Status of Women Parallel event. And you can also keep an eye on the Global Platform for Action to End FGMC, their Twitter account, to get a link for this recording as well, at Global FGMC on Twitter. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Please stay well. We will see you the next time.